Would introduce you?
If you want to.
Okay. Okay, we're live. Let me know if you guys could hear me and see Alan. I don't think Alan needs an introduction. Well, he's been here before, and you guys have met him and you know his background. Let me know, though, if you can hear me. That would be very appreciated. Okay, Al, you can go.
Hi, I'm on.
Yeah.
Good morning, Gary. Thanks. Nice of you to get up for me. Who else is in the room?
There's another guy, Mal, from Mexico City.
How you doing? Hey, we got two people. Good.
Gary says hello.
Mhm.
And we thank him for getting up in the middle of the night from Australia to check this out. I don't know exactly what Alan will be doing today. Something with a paradiddle, and he's gonna demonstrate. I'm just gonna give him the mic and the show, and he can do whatever he does. Okay. It's only 7 a.m. over here. It's 7 o'clock, Gary.
Huh.
Okay, Alan, you're on. You can go.
All right, thanks. So I was, like what Matt said, I want to talk about paradiddles today. I've seen a lot of paradiddle videos, and I approach doing things a little differently, teaching stuff, and I approach doing rudiments differently than most people. I like to break things down into its parts rather than take it as a whole right off the bat. Just give you the sticking and say this is it. Right, left, 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 left. I don't have to do that, right? Everybody knows that that's the definition for paradiddle, but there's a lot more. I think there's a lot more to it than that. So what I'm talking about is like when you're an athlete, a golfer, or a tennis player, or a baseball player. What you're working on is your swing or your stroke, and so you're breaking down what you're doing and looking at it in slow motion, and you're looking at all the pieces, all the joint movements, or whatever. So there's a lot of pieces to hitting a home run or stealing a base or whatever. But they work on individual things. They focus on the elements that they're doing. So I like to do the same thing physically, but you can do the same thing with rudiments. You bring them down to the elements that make them up. Well, first of all, even before we get into that, I like to take the elements of accents out, separate that. I don't want to deal with the accent when I'm learning a rudiment, because that's just an additional layer of information that I have to absorb, and then I have to practice. And I want to get the sticking down, and I want to get a nice, smooth, controlled, even rudiment going before I start articulating stuff. That's the first thing. So I'm not going to deal with the accent. I'm just going to deal with the RL, RR, and the LR, LL. But let's break that down. And the paradiddle is a combination of two other rudiments. It's a hybrid rudiment, and there's a lot of hybrid rudiments that we don't consider hybrids. We didn't talk about hybrids until after we got past the 40. Okay, but they're all high. I mean, there's a single stroke roll, and there's a double stroke roll, and there are flams. Those are the three primary, to me. Those are the three primary rudiments, and then everything else is some combination of those three. The paradiddle, the combination that's in the paradiddle, is a single stroke and double stroke roll. So if I want to improve my paradiddles, if I want to work on my paradiddles, we all right?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay. I want to work on my paradiddles. I could sit and play paradiddles with accents, or I could sit and play paradiddles without accents. But I think I could do better if I take apart the paradiddle and work on the pieces that I need to put together, and then work on putting them together. So in other words, I would consider working on my single stroke roll and my double stroke roll as a prerequisite
Keep going. You're on.
So the first thing I would do is get a nice even single stroke. No accent. That's half a paradiddle right there. And then the other half of the paradiddle is the roll, the double stroke roll. So when I'm practicing my roll, I'm also practicing my paradiddle. When I practice my single stroke, I'm also practicing my paradiddle. You know, that's why I like primaries. I like looking at things in primaries and pieces and putting the pieces together, because you realize that you're really working on more than one thing, because it's used in a lot of different ways. But you know, the single stroke is used in a lot of rudiments. The double stroke is used in a lot. You know, you're working on all of those rudiments when you work your single stroke. You're helping yourself to improve all the rudiments that use single strokes in the hybrid. So once you get a good, nice even single, and you can get the doubles sounding like the singles, then you have to learn how to switch from one to the other. That's what the paradiddle does. It switches from the singles to the doubles, back and forth. And we have to learn how to switch in and out of those two rudiments without upsetting the time or upsetting the amount of energy in each stroke. So the best way to do that is to take it in large chunks, where you can concentrate and really feel what you're doing, and then make a change and have a lot of time to prepare for the change. And so the idea is to do a long single stroke and then a long double stroke next to each other, and come in and out of those two things and try to get them to sound the same, you know, the same. We could start with 4 bars and 4 bars, for instance. Well, this is all right. It's 8 counts. You could do 4 bars. 1, 2, 2, 3, 4. That's so easy. It's much easier to do it slow. The slower you do it, the easier it is to get it to sound the same, and then you can start moving it up. Okay? So you do that. We use a metronome. I don't have one handy right here, but you know, I would do it against a metronome and do it at you know, accelerated tempos. You know, keep and do it 4 times or 8 times or 16 times, 4 bars each, going back and forth, so that you okay. And then when you're comfortable with that, you can break it, you know, take it into half. Take half of that space of time. Now when that gets comfortable, you can half it again. And then you can, when that gets comfortable, you can have that again. And then you can have that again. Now if you half it one more time, you're at the paradiddle now. I'll go from one to the other, I'll show you. So you can work your way up and down that if you want to, the 4 bars back down to the paradiddle. Half, 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 half. Ooh, paradiddle. Can't go any further than that.
I guess if they could hear me and see us.
What?
I guess if they could hear us.
They can't hear us?
I don't know. Ask them if they could.
Oh, Matt wants to know if you can hear me.
If not, continue out of it. Don't worry about it.
Huh?
Yeah, go.
They can hear me?
I don't know. Nobody's responding. Just Gary says no problems from Australia.
All right, so they hear me in Australia. Well, the rest of the world should be easy then, right?
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah. All right, so that's the idea is that I'm practicing each rudiment separately, and then I'm trying to get them closer and closer together, and then the paradiddle is the closest you can get, because the double stroke only has 2 strokes, so it causes 2 of the singles, and then you can't go any smaller than 4 notes to complete a paradiddle sequence, at least one side of it, and then of course you have to do it again for the other side. So at that point we get a nice. And that's what I want to get. Even as possible, without any accent whatsoever. And that's a lot to work on, but that will help doing that particular exercise. I think Joe Morello in Master Studies 1 has an exercise like that. I mean, I didn't make this stuff up, you know. So I think if you want to look at that exercise in his book, is the one I'm referring to. But you don't, I mean, it's basically what I just showed you. You don't really need to read that. You could just count it. But it's the same idea. Okay? Now, once you do that, now you can add the accents to it. So, I get this sound, and I just want to make a louder sound. So really, all I want to do is I want to get up. I don't want to throw an accent. I just want to change my position to get a louder sound on the first note. I mean, I can do this, but that's later. Let's just learn the choreography of accenting a paradiddle, okay? Very slowly, because we have to do everything slow. We have to do all this stuff very slow, so that it's easy enough for you to do evenly and control it, and then we learn to speed it up. You know, but if you don't do it slow, if you just do it fast, you're never going to correct the unevenness, and you're always going to feel some sort of uncomfortable pressure to try to get the accent out. But with the choreography, you just get into position. You know, so if I want to be in position, I got to be up here. So we call this the full stroke. I mean, I don't want to go through all of this stuff, but this is the full stroke only because it uses the full range, not because it comes back. I call it a free stroke because it comes back. That's the come back part. But when I say full stroke, I'm talking about the length of the stroke. So when I talk about half stroke, I'm talking about halfway down. I'm still talking about a free stroke. So we're going to mix these free stroke levels. And half of the full, which is the half stroke, half free, and all this free. The only problem is we need another stroke to get to the different positions, and those are the control strokes. And there's 2 of them. There's one to get down, you know, so that we can play soft following that change of position, and then there's one to get up so that we can play loud after that change of position. So the whole thing is preparation. You make the change to get in position for the loud before you're, as soon as you can. Okay? The quicker you can get up there, the quicker you can play accent exercises. So I start with this in full because I want to play loud, the first note, and then I want to stay down with this because this next note is going to be soft right after it. And there's the accent, and then the next note is going to be soft, but I want to get prepared for the next accent, so I'm going to use an up control up for that. And then I get to do 2 straight taps, and then I'm ready for the left side, and the left side comes with the down control. And then I want a soft up to get positioned for the return of the right hand after I get done with the 2 taps on the left. Now it's down, and it's up, and it's tap, and it's tap, and it's down, and it's up, and it's tap, and tap, and down, and up, tap, tap, down, and up. You know, I'm not doing any. I can play the whole paradiddle up here. We're going to play the whole paradiddle down here. So I'm just changing my position. And that's the way we do all the accents. And then, of course, you could change where the upstroke is if you want to hit the accent in the grid, the accent grid, which is the accent grid is to hit the quad before notes. Hit the first one. I'm not doing the paradiddle. I just want to show what the grid is, and the grid is. So you can use different upstrokes to get into different positions from the paradiddle. This is the natural one to start with. This one would be so it's really where you place that up. The down stroke is always the accent, and the upstroke is always the first opportunity to get up there before the loud note. So the upstroke changes, and that sets you up for an accent in a different place, and that's really all I'm doing. And then you can speed this stuff up after you get comfortable with the choreography of knowing when to go up and down, and you reach a pretty comfortable level. Oh, sorry. This one's the tricky one. Because you have the tap beforehand, the ghost note. Beforehand. This is great for ghost notes. Paradiddles are really great for ghost notes. You know, this one has the ghost note afterwards, right? But the other one has the ghost note before it. That's the inversion. On my diddle, it's the second note of the diddle. So if you go through the grid with the paradiddle, it actually will help you with your ghost note execution, because you'll be learning to play tap strokes before the accent and tap strokes after the accent on the same hand. On the right hand too, not only the left hand. So I really like paradiddles for that too. But so when you get it up to speed and you get comfortable with all the choreography, then you can start adding the molar throw. And that's really where you can let go and start bouncing those double strokes. You can even bounce. You can even bounce singles if you can play them fast enough. You know, I'm bouncing everything I can except the accent. I'm not bouncing the singles as much as I'm bouncing the doubles. It depends on how fast you have to move. The quicker I want to move the stick, the more bounce I have to use. When I say bounce, I'm using rebound or bounce everywhere, but when I say bounce, I'm adding fingers for a secondary bounce additional to the rest. Sort of a push-pull. You know. And then you can get it to 2 or 3 of those you know. This is molar. I don't want to teach molar. That's another lesson. But you use the molar with the accents. Yeah, it's hard. Getting into that inversion is hard. But I'm using a molar to do that accent. So good to go through the grid. And then, of course, we have the double paradiddle and the triple paradiddle.
Before you get into that, Alan,
Yeah.
Can you explain a little slower what the grid is, go through the cycle?
Yeah, I did that already.
Slower though.
The grid with, so if you're hitting 4 notes, any 4 notes, I do this through the whole stick control book, 5, 6, and 7. You could do this grid against all of these exercises. It's great stuff. You know, if you want to work out the choreography, or if you're into molar already, then you know the book well. It's really doing the grid against. I mean, the next step is then access to rebounds. Is simple after that. You know. So anyway, I'll do it slower. Where 1 knee and 1 knee and 1 knee. So I'm hitting knee 1. That's the first grid. Then I can hit the E. 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 Then I get the ands. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And then I can hit the uhs. 1 E and So a little faster that comes out to. That's with single strokes, but you do that. You can do that with the paradiddle. Like I said, if you do that with the paradiddle, then you're practicing your ghost note, pre ghost note to the accent, and post ghost note to the accent, which is really what the whole thing is. I mean, there's only 2 things that can happen. Well, there's more than 2. But in terms of playing ghost notes, you can either precede the note you want to hit with a ghost note, or you can post-seed it. That's it. And both of those happen in the paradiddle if you go through the grid with the straight sticking on the paradiddle.
You know, Alan, I get a lot of questions about the stick control book and the accents and rebounds and master studies.
Yeah.
Now, you just demonstrated the grid and doing all 3 pages with the grid. You know, these guys think it's instant mashed potatoes here. Like, they want to do it for 1 hour, 2 hours, and they think they can do it. I'm trying not to discourage them, and the process is long. It's like a whole brand new world that opens up.
Well, it's a different approach to just learning to do what you got to do. You know, this kind of approach gives you the ability to do anything, and it's hard to cover everything that's possible. You really can't do that, but you can cover a lot of possibilities. You know, and that's what the stick control is about. Sticking possibilities. There's 72 sticking possibilities. Pretty clever. You know, so when you put accents through those sticking combinations, you're pretty much going to come because the elements, like I said, I break it down to the elements. The elements that you're working with is either you can hit an accent, or you can hit with a preceded tap, or you can hit with a post tap. Those are the 3 things that happen. Well, you can have 2 accents in a row, right? Or you can have 2 taps in a row. But those are the 4 situations. It's either too soft with nothing, too loud, a soft loud, or a loud soft. Those are the elements that go into accentuation. Now, when you start using different sticking combinations, I mean, even the 3, I did a post with an extra tap. Here's the 3. Okay, with a tap before and tap after. Now, if I add 2, I can go, or I can go, or I can go. There's only certain combinations of the up and down that I can use with it. Tapping before, tapping after. You can tap more than once, it's the same thing. If I tap once, no matter how many times I want to tap, I'm doing a tap before and after the accent. If I'm not playing a vamp like that, then I either have to start with a tap and then an accent, or I have to start with an accent and then a tap. Or I can go for 2 before an accent, or I can go for 2 accents before a tap. So there's 72 sticking combinations, and you put that 4 combination grid against those 72 combinations. You're practicing about every kind of physical move possible through almost any sticking that may come up for you. So it frees you up. Now, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of information to absorb, right? So it takes a lot of time. You can't expect to do this quickly, and you do it in phases. The first thing you have to do is you have to learn the sticking combinations. Then you have to learn, and first thing you have to do is learn how to bounce the stick, then you got to learn the sticking combination, then you have to learn how to do an accent. Then you have to learn how to use your arms. Before you can even talk about doing the grid against stick control, unless you want to do it with ups and downs, and that takes even longer to sit and figure out when the upstroke comes and when the downstroke is and all.
Well, here's my point. Gary just made a statement here. He said, well, if you do the grid, all 72 exercises, that's a lifetime of work.
Yes.
It is. It's not like, you do it for 3 days and it's going to be happening. But it's all related. If you do the grid with the stick control book, you open up accents and rebounds, or you open up the master studies, they're all related. It makes life a lot easier to continue to go forward.
Yeah, you don't have to finish the all 72 on the grid to go on to accents and rebounds. If you could do the first 13, you're ready for the next book. But if you could do the 72, that's a lot better. Of course, the book, and the book takes it to the next level, but it doesn't have as much information as a grid against 72 combinations. He basically gives you 12 sticking combinations and 4 accentuation possibilities. And then he goes into other concepts after that, using you going from an 8th note concept to a dotted note concept to a triplet concept, but it's still all the same information, basically. So the grid has a lot more information than accents and rebounds. You can't write that. There's no point in writing that much stuff out. And like I said, you don't have to do all 72. It's a like you said, it's a lifetime endeavor. I would try to get
13.
Try to get the first 6. If you could master the first 6 and then add the other 2 paradiddle inversions. If you could do if you could do it through the first paradiddle and you could do the first inversion, that's plenty. That'll work on your ghost notes, and it'll work on your single strokes, and it'll work on your accentuation. But once that feels comfortable, get out of your comfort zone. Go on.
Challenge.
Get more challenged, and this can continue on for 72. You can add 72 levels of challenge to yourself, and work on the accents and rebounds while you're doing that, because the accents and rebounds are much more focused and organized for a practice session than using a grid against stick control. It's more focused on an accentuation routine than this. It's less information, so it's easier to comprehend and assimilate. What I'm giving you it's like an entire book. It's like a 50-page book. Try writing it out.
Gary's funny. He just gave me 72 times 16 equals 1152.
1152.
Right.
Those are the combinations you have to learn. That's right. So, you need to know all of them? No.
They're all related.
Like I said, they're all fundamentally related to the first 13. Actually, if you could do the first 13.
Well, we had a little session here before the lesson, all day, and Alan has gone through his practice routine, and it's one heck of a practice. What does your whole total practice routine take, Alan, in terms of time?
My minimum routine is about 2.5 hours on the pad, and that could be done in a 3-hour period, or it could be done in, I take breaks.
Yeah.
I do three sittings. I do a full stroke warm up, and I take a break, and then I do a half stroke exercise, and then I take a break, and then I do an accent exercise. And that's my fundamentals. I want to be able to play full strokes. I want to be able to play half strokes, and I want to be able to play combinations of the two at will. So that's how I look at it. I need to practice the full. I need to practice the half. I need to practice both at the same time.
Okay.
You know.
I
That
think
takes about 2.5 hours of pad time to me go through, and I don't do all of it every day. I do as much as it feels comfortable, or as much as I have time for. It's not necessary to hit the highest metronome mark you can do every day. It's more important to start at the lowest one and go to a medium comfortable level. I mean, I think the returns diminish as you get faster.
and another one is how long have you been doing this routine?
It changes. I mean, the routine I'm doing now is the routine that I've evolved to over time. A beginner can't do a routine like this.
I guess
Certainly, I mean, it would take, a lot of lessons just to do the routine from, because I'm covering everything you can do. I'm covering molar, and I'm covering full strokes, and I'm covering free strokes.
and
And,
fingers.
I mean, it's really, to do my routine, you have to have a full knowledge of the technique to do my complete routine. And that's only the basic routine. I mean, on a good day, after lunch, I may come back and decide to do another routine series, which will then get into arm strokes, not molar arm strokes, but straight forearm strokes, and get more into finger work. I'll do a lot of finger work after that. That's icing on the cake. That second session is like, all right, and that could be another hour. But all this evolved over time. My routine changed as my development changed. And I don't even mean the education development, because I pretty much knew everything when I restarted again. Every time I start, you have to, when I say start, I mean you let go. I mean, you don't practice for a long time, and then you have to come back. You don't come back and do the routine you used to do. You have to go back and do a beginner's routine. When I started out with 20 minutes a day, just like I would if I took one lesson. I did full strokes for 20 minutes a day. This is as much as I could do when I started doing this again, just 5 years ago.
Okay. Well, also, can you review that balancing point for those who play traditional and right?
Well, it doesn't matter with you either way. The balance point is the same. The concept is the same on either hand.
Okay.
It's what I did on the last lesson. It's really the last lesson, but I'll review
Well, just
it.
make a little review on it, maybe. What's occurring. You have a request for it.
Yeah, well, this goes back to the Tai Chi stuff that I learned, and instead of thinking of the stroke as up and down, I think of it as a rotation, because that's what it is. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to learn what the stick does, so that I can follow it and stay out of its way and not hamper it, but not lose it. And if I need to control it, I'm there with it. If I change my mind about direction or speed, whatever I want to do. But if I like what it's doing, I don't want to interfere with it. Anyway, so physically speaking, when you talk about rotation, you think of this as a circle. If that's what you're doing, it's only a quarter of the pie, all right? But it's the same physics as if you're doing a complete rotation. Same physics. So I'm trying to turn now. Now, I gave you a great example I want to use here that I made up when I was telling you about this.
You forgot what you told me.
It's about centrifugal force. We used to teach about balance point as being the center of the stick, and that's you get more bounce this way. Now, I want to go about the reason you get more bounce it's an even stroke. There's the same amount of weight on both sides, right? But it's really a spin. So if you want to stay with the stick, you have to be spinning at the same axis. Your hand needs to be spinning at the same axis point. I'll give you. Otherwise, it's going to pull you away from the stick. The centrifugal force of the rotation. It's like, I don't know if you remember. There used to be a ride in Coney Island. It was this gigantic roulette wheel. And you get on this gigantic slide and you slide in this roulette wheel, and everybody gets, and it's got this big hump in the middle, like a roulette wheel, and everybody tries to get in as close as they can to the center. And they can't. The more people there are, the more they have to, spread out around the center of the wheel. And when the wheel starts, as it picks up speed, people start flying out to the to the periphery of the wheel. And they get caught against the wall of the wheel, and they can't come. They have not the strength to get back to the center anymore because the centrifugal force is forcing them out. The last person to get tossed is the person sitting in the center of the rotation, which the closer you are to the center of the rotation, the less centrifugal force is being exerted to pull you away from the center. So really you want to ride in the center of the stick's turn, or you want your weight to be as close to the center as possible. So you want to consolidate your weight and balance it so that your fulcrum. All a fulcrum is a centered position of rotation, right? This could be the fulcrum, and this could be the rotation, but it's an uneven rotation. There's a lot of centrifugal force pulling away from the center, because there's more weight on the outside. It's creating more inertia. That's what happens to mass. It has to move faster to make the circle. There's a bigger circle. If it moves faster, it creates more inertia.
Mr. Herman.
Yeah.
I made a mistake with this here. It's my fault. Nobody can get on except members. If we close the lesson now, say in about 2 hours, you want to do another one?
I have to do it again from the beginning.
Okay.
You want me to remember everything I said now?
Well, hey, you're on the spot. Would you mind doing that? There was a lot of people.
A lot of people wanted to come in, they couldn't get in.
Right.
Well, I guess we have to then. But I want some dinner then.
Yeah, of course.
You have to feed me.
That's where everybody comes, enough for lessons. Eat my
All right.
cooking.
So we're done?
Right. No, wait a second.
Because I'm in the middle of a terrific point here.
Okay, hold on.
So anyway, so the fulcrum of the stick, the fulcrum is just a turning point. The turning point could be in the center of the mass, which is the balance point of the stick, or it could be in the center. And when you're turning your hand in a rotation, because this is a rotation, I'm rotating on my wrist, and I'm rotating my forearm when I do this. So my hand has a mass, and that mass has a center, and I want to keep that balanced. So I want the center of my mass and the center of the stick to be one mass, so that I can then average out the center of the two masses together. Think of it as one mass and one center of rotation, so that I'm rotating in the center of my mass and rotating in the center of the stick's mass, in the same direction, of course. Either way, doesn't matter which way you're doing it. I want to get my mass around the center of the stick, and I want it to try to get it. It's impossible to get it in the center of your mass, but you can arrange your hand as best as you can in a natural way to get the mass as much as you can in a even clump around the rotating mass of the stick. Well, you want to be one with the stick. And then if you could do that slow and learn to stay out of the stick's way and just move your mass with it. The only thing I'm doing is stopping the stick at the top because they can't go any further. want to get perfect circles, and I want my weight to be perfectly in the middle of the circle. You know, so I don't get thrown out to the periphery, and I don't have to keep adjusting where my stick is in my hand. You know, I have to keep changing my position to reposition it to where the stick used to be. Anyway,
Listen, we're gonna come back and
that was the last lesson. The Tai Chi stuff, you know, which is round and slow. But then I can talk about momentum too, instead of using acceleration.
We'll give them a little bit at 8 p.m.
All right,
you
we'll
ever
come
done
back at
that?
8 o'clock. They're gone now?
No, they're still in there.
Okay, well, we'll come back at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, Eastern Standard Time.
I probably will be a little slower because I have eaten. So I'm not going to be as fast when I come back. Please forgive me.
so just say goodbye and we'll get out of here.
All right, bye.